Hey everybody, welcome back to another video here. This time we're actually been working on our modules here. We're actually starting to get through some pipe bending and actually bending some conduit itself here. So this is some EMT conduit, which is a electric metal tubing. In this case, we're bending some 1/2 inch diameter tubing here. We actually need to go ahead and use a pipe bender for this. This is a really nifty tool that many electricians use to go ahead and actually take this straight metallic tubing and bend it to different corresponding angles. As you can see here, it's actually just a basic lever in a sense here. We've got the nice arrow indicator here that we can actually place on our actual tubing as our initial mark. And you can see there's a variety of angles marked here as well. Right? We've got 10 degrees, 22, 30, 45, 60, and then we can actually bend all the way up to a 90-degree angle here on this tubing with our pipe bender. Okay. As we go ahead and bend, you also notice we have a marker here. It says stubs 5 inches. Okay. This is accounting for the radius on our actual pipe bender here that we're actually going to go ahead and gain when we bend up to a 5-inch pipe, 90-degree pipe. So some stuff to keep in mind as we go ahead and bend. We're going to kind of take a look at this farther along here. All right. So there's a little bit of math that goes into actually making a 90-degree bend. Again, when you think about a 90-degree bend, right, I want you guys all to kind of think about triangles, right? This is like kind of the framework we need to get inside of here, right? So a 90-degree bend, right? Imagine, right, we got our triangle coming up here, right? So we're squared off here, and in this case, right, this free end height is almost going to be kind of like our y-axis here, right? And we have our x-axis running across the bottom here, right? So what we want to do here, right, is making sure that we can calculate, hey, what's my free end height going to be, or in this case, the length between 2 points that we're going to measure, right? That distance in between, right? And then this x value, right, is going to be that distance that we might cut off with our hacksaw at the very end between the other box. So we're not necessarily worried too much about this, but we want to know what our y-axis is going to be here. And there's a little bit of math that goes into that. So if we go ahead and take a look here, it's very simple, especially for a 90-degree bend. We want to make sure we can calculate our total rise, right? Again, that distance between 2 points, or maybe our 2 boxes, all right? So for in this example we have here, all right, our total rise, or stub up, or free end height, as some people call it, we could say might be 20 inches in length, right? So imagine 2 boxes, 20 inches apart. We're going to say that's our stub up in this example here. So we've got 20 inches, okay? We want to go ahead and make sure we account for our stub up height. Now, what is the stub up height going to be? Well, if you remember earlier, we talked about that radius, right, that we gain on the pipe bender when we bend, right? In this case, we're using 1/2 inch EMT, which means our take up, or our stub up height, is going to be 5 inches. However, if I'm using 3/4 or 1 inch, you're going to gain that 6 or 8 inch radius. Okay, so I have to take my 20 inches for my total free end height. I'm going to subtract it 5 inches from this. Okay. And then that's going to go ahead and get me a total of 15 inches I'm going to mark out on my piece of conduit here. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at that. All right, so now I went ahead, I cut out a decent size of our EMT here. And we talked about our example here, right? We wanted our length to be 20 inches that we're going to go ahead and mark out between 2 boxes here. Again, we went ahead and subtracted 5 inches, right? Because that's what we're going to gain on the pipe bend up. And so this case, right, the mark I'm going to make is at 15 inches, right? So I'm taking that 20-inch value, the distance between that I want, subtracting that 5 inches from the radius. I'm going to go ahead and mark that out from my end over here. So I go ahead and take out a basic little tape measure here, and again, I recommend doing this with the sharper when you make your mark. So again, here's our 20, and this is just for reference here, right? This is the actual variable distance that we want between our pipe. However, we're going to subtract that 5 inches, so 20 minus 5 is going to give us 15. So I want to be my mark. Go ahead and close that. And I go ahead and recommend that you actually go ahead, to the best of your ability, and kind of take this line all the way around, right, your conduit here. Right? So now if you look, right, anywhere I'm going to put that pipe bender, right, my mark's going to be made. Right? So I know from here to here is 15, and I know here's my 20-inch goal. Right? So this space right here is going to be the gain I'm going to take when I bend up this pipe to 90 degrees. All right. So now we went ahead, we laid out our piece of EMT. Again, from here to here's my 15, here's my 20-inch goal, right? So this whole length right here is actually going to be what we're going to gain. Now, key thing here with our EMT pipe bender here, right, is we have a little arrow here, right? And this little arrow is what we're going to line up here with that 15-inch mark we made. So go ahead and put this pipe in. I think I want to put it at a slight angle. Angled up. If you notice, for this bend here specifically, I want that arrow right on this back end piece here. Right, so I can go ahead and see my marks all the way around, and it's exactly what we want. Again, lay it flat here. So this is a basic lever here. So we're going to put our foot right here, and I'm going to move my hand up here to the top of the lever to go ahead and bend this. All right. So let's go ahead and get it. You're going to try and get this to the best of your ability. Right now you can kind of see right about 22 degrees is our EMT's parallel with that 22 degree mark. Now we keep going. 30. We're going to keep going. About 45. And now this is kind of where we want to get to that close mark here. So I like to go in, bend it. And right now, that's looking pretty good. However, we want to make sure it's perfect. This is why I recommend you go over and grab a quick little 6 to 8 inch magnetic level to double check. So here I went, grab my little level. It is magnetic. I'm going to go ahead and slap this on right here. Now if you notice, we're not really looking at this one or this one in this case. We're looking at this bottom side here. And we're looking at this air bubble. So right now this air bubble is actually pointing towards me, which means I need to go ahead and bring in this pipe just a little bit farther towards me. Okay. Now it doesn't need to be much. Okay. What I like to do, right, is give it a little love push, just like that, just a little bit. You come back over. Now if you notice here, right, now that air bubble is going to this side. So I overbent this just a little bit. Now that's not a big deal here, right? We can actually go ahead with our pipe bender here and actually use the back aft here, right? This actually allows for your EMT to slide into the back side of this tubing here. We can actually use this to pry it back just a little bit. Slap this in just like this. Just like with that little love tap, we're just going to gently pull it back up and out. Now I can come back over here. And that's looking pretty good there, right? That air bubble's kind of going right in between both of those black lines right there. Take a quick look at that. And that's how I know I'm at a pretty nice 90-degree angle coming right up here. Again, these probably aren't going to be perfect, right? As again, we're manually bending these. So there is going to be a little bit of variability within these pipe bends, but that's okay. So now we're going to see, right, we wanted this distance from here to the outside edge of our pipe here to be 20 inches. All right, so now let's double check to see if we actually made that. If I take my tape measure, I measure from the outside edge here to the outside edge of end of my tubing right here. And if you take a look, we're a little bit short. We're about 19 7/8. However, that's pretty good. That's a variance we're willing to work with here, especially as we go ahead and put these into a set screw connector. Again, if you see my initial marks, here's that 15-inch mark. We got that 5-inch radius gain. What's that kind of look like? This is a circle. This is the center, right? Here's that 5 inches. Okay. Again, there's a little bit of variability in there, but you can imagine that point right there, that 5 inches we're gaining up on that bend up. So this piece right here is exactly what we want. I can cut this down the length to my other boxes to connect this whole thing together.